Welcome to More Than Mindset, the only podcast that bridges the gap between spirituality and success. Go beyond the mind with clarity and confidence coach Kim Guillory and learn how to integrate your passion to serve with your skills and experience to create a business you love. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back to the show. It has been a while since I've had a guest, but that is what you are going to get this week. Monique is the mind-body coach, as she calls herself, or refers to herself. She is one of my first batch of coaches. I've trained back in the day.
One of the first or second.
Yeah. She's been around a while, let's just say. Monique and I met in massage school and became friends. And we're both interested in helping people heal chronic pain. We had a lot in common. You may have heard her on previous episodes. She was also a hairdresser massage therapist, yoga, all of the things. And she packed her, I don't want to say a bad word, but packed her stuff and hauled it to Colorado and is now living a whole nother life, another version of herself. And we have partnered for Self-Healing Masters and wanted to bring this show to bring light to the fear of change, exactly what happens once our clients start changing, once they no longer have the chronic pain and the severed relationship with themselves, once they have done the self-healing work, what happens then? So, Monique, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here as always and to talk about this work because it is so important. And with my own personal journey going through this transition myself, I have a deeper understanding of how to relate to people where they are when they're experiencing this. And it's hard work, Kim. It's hard work and it's deep. And I'm so grateful that we have such accessible tools and techniques at our fingertips that we can use in the moment, anytime, to change the way we're experiencing life, in our favor, to where it's not going to work against us and hurt us, but truly finding the rhythm in a different way. And it was a little bit like a hurricane at first, and now it's kind of like the river. And every once in a while we get a flood and we got a little bit of movement. Sometimes the rocks come down and make the river dirty again. I live off the Colorado River right here next to us, and I witness this in real time all the time. It's kind of what my journey has felt like. It's like this crazy storm and all this mess comes in, and then we get it all cleared up, and then life happens and it dumps back in and it makes a big mess and we clean it all up. But it's easier and it's quicker and it's not as aggressive anymore. And it's so different to be in this state of mind after the change and open to more change, ready and willing to welcome the change. I'm like, yes, let's change all the time. It's so fun because the experience itself has been so moving in a positive direction for me personally. I just want to share this with everybody.
Yeah. A couple of things came to mind when you said that. Number one, we're so used to hurricanes, both being from Louisiana. We know how to hunker down and ride it out. And the second thing was the Mississippi River, the muddy Mississippi that is going off into all kinds of, what do you call those, coves, just kind of ventures out everywhere. So Mississippi is not straight. It's not straight and narrow by any means. And it kind of collects everything from above, brings it down. But for those who are just joining, and maybe this is your first episode, what Monique and I are talking about is self-healing for chronic pain, broken relationships, and all of those things, but specifically how chronic pain shows up in your life when you have unresolved trauma or issues from the past. So whenever I first started doing this work, my clients were blown away because in minutes, literally in minutes, they could transform years of trauma. Yesterday alone, over 100 years of trauma was resolved in client sessions. And they were the ones who asked, could you teach me how to do this? I want, just like Monique just said, I want to share it. It's like, I want everyone to know. I don't ever want to stop talking about it, but it's uncomfortable because they often look at us like we're weird. We fell off the roof of the house and hit our head. And we were just talking about this on a masterclass that I was doing, how it's actually now uncomfortable not being uncomfortable because we've gotten used to change and we know how to deal mental and emotionally with anything because we know that the answer is within ourselves. And people say that it's within you, but then they don't teach us how to access it. And it's very annoying. And so because we've been through years of that together, if you added our years, it's almost unbelievable of hearing the same thing from practitioners, from doctors, from diagnosis and medications, and us trying to fix something in the physical body that was actually broken on the mental and emotional level. And that's why we're so passionate about sharing it. But what we want to talk about today specifically is we now have a lot of clients who have gotten amazing results. So we've got a huge pool of people. And then there's the next problem. And that next problem is they've made the change, they've healed, and they're now a whole person. They're now themselves. And that's uncomfortable and hard because people in their environment, their loved ones, their friends, their coworkers, their peers, no longer meet the same, they don't relate at the same capacity that they used to. And so Monique and I were deciding what we were going to do this on, and both agreed that this is the hardest thing for our clients, is when they finally come to the realization, the defense drops, and we're able to go in on a subconscious level and release the problem or transform the problem. And now they got it all together. And what are they telling you, Monique? What's happening when they get home or when they try to maintain the healing?
Yeah. We've seen this time and again with different clients. And when they go home and they are just so excited, they're so pumped up, they just had a realization, an aha, and they want to share it with somebody. And the person next to them doesn't know what they're talking about or can't relate because they weren't there in that physical energy, in that space. They didn't receive the same transmission, download, information that maybe the other person had. We have this happen a lot at our retreats. We have these amazing retreats and they're beautiful. And I remember the first retreat I came home, I was so excited. I just swore, like, I'm going to come inside. My husband's going to be amazing. My house is going to be clean. Like, everything's going to be good because I was on fire, man. Like, I was pumped up. And I got home and he's sitting in the same chair watching the same Netflix show, not caring about anything that I did. And he's just like, oh, you're home. Cats are hungry. And I'm just like, oh my God, I had a life-changing experience. Don't you want to know? No, no concern. And this triggered me for a long time. So I get where they're coming from. When we don't relate and we can't have that same dialogue. Likewise, there are other situations, right, where we maybe change and grow and alter and we don't relate to our family or our friends anymore because maybe we don't want to go sit at the hair salon and gossip anymore and talk smack and do, happy hour every day after lunch anymore and things like that. And I know for me, that was one of the things that was really hard for me is that when I changed, I thought, are my friends still going to love me if I don't want to do the things that we used to do? And will they still accept me and welcome me into their homes? And I've been fortunate enough to have the majority of them still love me truly, deeply the way I am. And the others that maybe the connection wasn't there anymore, I wish them well. And it's safe for me to go on and safe for them to go on. And we can both be in our own spaces. We don't have to be best friends anymore. We don't have to be together. But the fear of that is so painful. And I think that was something that kept me stuck for a long time, because if I really evolve and become who I am, what will they think? Will they still love me? Will they still want to come around? Will they want to play? And I love people. I love connection. I want safety. I want to hang out with all the humans. And I understood that maybe that wasn't the best space for me at the time. So it was really uncomfortable to be in that.
Yeah. If like in my personal experience and with my clients, it's grief.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still like last week's show, I talk about the sadness, like because we had a vision and dreams we had a future, we had plans for a future. And then you have this separation where you're no longer on the same frequency for whatever reason. And it's not that one's better than the other. It's not like, oh, it's a high vibe and you've got it. It's not like that at all. It's just that the forever ended. And I know for myself, I'll speak for myself because my husband doesn't feel this way. It feels like it's a weakness because I need people so badly, because I get so attached, and I feel empty without having that together. And, it's like without having those discussions, it's like, I'm just like, yeah, it's all right. That's all right. But like the mountains aren't quite as fun, or the road trips aren't as fascinating, or it's not as interesting, without someone to share. And so then we negotiate, or I know I've negotiated, like I negotiated my growth of what else I wanted to do to settle for what they wanted to do, because they didn't want to go any further and I didn't want the loss of relationship and they didn't want, and we keep each other stuck.
Yeah. I mean, it was just last year that I had all of these travel plans, or the year before, that they all went south, right? Every person that I was supposed to connect with to travel from one space to the next, or share a ride with, or share a room with, life just happened and it moved out of my way. And I had the opportunity to either trust myself and do what was correct for me, even if it was alone, or go home and stay stagnant. And I came out of my skin. Like, I was so uncomfortable that I got on flights alone, and I went to concerts alone, and I went to conferences alone, and retreats alone, and business events alone. And you're right. I just wanted someone to come with me. I just wanted to have a partner, somebody to have fun, to share this work with, because it's so deep. It's so good. And I know that I really needed it myself more than anybody else. And I wanted people to come so that they could share in what I was experiencing, because it's so amazing. But maybe that wasn't their path yet, or maybe that wasn't the right connection to bring there, And life has shown me this through several experiences. And even in the last several weeks, we've had, some big eye-opening awarenesses about, what's really going on, and why do we need the connection, and what's happening, in the, I don't want to go too deep, conscious, unconscious stuff, but there's something else there. The need to be with somebody.
When you just said it, it's so amazing. We could end that with "to me." It's so amazing to me. And I'm like, wait, are we really in it alone? Like, that's a hard awakening to recognize that, but we really are. And, I know even with talking with you, and because 2 years ago today, by the way, Peggy and I were at your place. It came up on my Facebook memories, some of the stuff that we had done that we posted. Mm-hmm. And it's like there is a fear to go too deep and intimate now that I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. I went all in. I trusted every relationship. And now I remember a few years ago, probably about 4 years ago, I was talking to a friend and I said, I thought we were going to have more friends as we got older because we meet more people. And it was an older woman. And she said, oh no, hon, you're going to get less because you tolerate less as you get older. Because you have so much experience, you already know how that's going to turn out. And I noticed this with people that have had work with me. It used to take 2-3 years before I'd let them go or before they'd quit. And now it's weeks, sometimes days, before we realize like, whoop, that's obviously not going to work for both of us, and being open to that. I can't say that it's comfortable yet. I still don't like it, but I respect it. You know what I'm saying? Like I respect it. So what could we tell, or what could you tell people out there who maybe they know, because, we know the thing with chronic pain, they lose a whole identity.
Yes.
Life with pain, and then there's life without pain. It's two different people. You're not the same. I'm not the same. Who I was with my illness, disease, and diagnosis, and who I am today is not the same person. So what would you tell someone who has this new awareness and awakening and empowerment that they're actually the creator of their life? They're actually the storyteller. And their friends or their people are no longer relatable, or they're actually at risk being in that environment because it brings that conditioning back. So what could you offer our audience?
There's a moment where you learn to trust yourself differently, and you will create the agreements with the people that are meant to be in those spaces with you. Because when you do declutter all of the conditioning and the confusion and the chaos that has created these pain points in our lives, there's now space. And when we evolve into that next version of ourselves and we let go of the old identity and the blocks and the pain, there's now momentum in us naturally, because we feel different to be different. And the mind will come in and it will try to distract you and tell you why it's wrong and you should feel guilty and you should have shame and these are your obligations and this is your blood, and you start scorekeeping. And this is where I say, thank you, Kim Guillory, for the tools that we have in that freaking member vault and container. The techniques, the modules, the lessons, the things that we have access at our fingertips. Anybody in the entire world, 24 hours a day, can access this. And there have been moments where I have been in my bed crying, falling apart at the store, not wanting to get out of the car or whatever. And I literally opened this page up and I'm like, oh, right there. That's all I need. But if I didn't take those steps before to get to that version, I wouldn't have access to stuff like that. So it's part of the process to pull back all this stuff and have these things hurt almost to come through, to be able to get on the other side and be able to do it so, I hate to say easy, but with ease. I mean, it's truly an easier route than the hours that I spent, weeks, months in some situations, just like beating my brain in, wanting to run away, wanting to hurt things, blow people up. Like I was so distorted and in pain, and was not this version that I am now. And because of all of these different steps that I've taken, and I let go of those things that were pulling me back, the dead weight, the things hanging on, right? And I evolved. I now had an awareness that I didn't have before. I had tools in my bucket that I thought I knew, but I didn't really, I always say this, didn't know, like in my being. There's book knowledge. I had all that, but I couldn't do it. So having that, and then having these tools when this stuff comes up to where you don't stay in that pain or that drama, is such a treat. It's such a gift.
Yeah, it's when you say easy or easier, what came to mind, it's like, it's not necessarily that this is so easy. It's not easy. You feel it. It's that the ease is in the amount of time that it takes compared to what it used to take. And it's knowledge compared to practiced knowledge. So there's knowing And then there's doing it until you become it. And that's what I think from my perspective, that's what I see as missing. What about you? Because you're like, it's so easy. Everything is there. They could grab it at any time. And I do the same thing. I just like boom, go through a podcast and pick.
Yep.
And I am like inspired by myself. Like sometimes I laugh at myself. I'm like, what the hell? Who says that? And I will laugh at some of especially the earlier ones. Cause I was really just picking up a mic and downloading. So I'm like, whoever was being channeled at that point in time. No, it was just like, I'm like, I really said that, kind of thing. But I laugh at myself, because I was transparent. It's what I was experiencing in my own transformation. And I'm so thankful today to be able to go back to that. And new clients will come in and they're like telling me about one of the old podcasts. And I'm like, I gotta go hear that. Like, I gotta go listen to that. And I was like, is it different than what I said? They're like, no, you're still you, but I could tell you were thinking when you were talking, you were trying to figure it out, And so I'm like, I hear you on the part that you have resources and accessibility, and letting the individuals know that they're actually not alone.
Right.
They're different. It's different. The environment's different, but they're far from being alone. It's just that there's a distance from them and what was.
Yes.
More than, right. Because I know one of your favorite podcasts is the Transition of Transformation. That's the one. No, is it 48 that you share all the time?
48.
Yeah. I learned that from you. And I guess I'm thinking from the perspective of, we can get really deep, guys. And so we're going to try not to go there. We're keeping skimming the surface. You need to come into Self-Healing Masters if you want to know more about this work, because the coach calls, the modules, Monique is doing a challenge this week in the More Than Mindset group. That's another reason to get into the Facebook group, and invite people to come. It's free. This is going to help strengthen your environment. So many clients come in alone and they feel isolated. And because they believe they're isolated, they continue being isolated. And in the meantime, your friends are researching somewhere else. Everyone is looking for ease and joy and peace. Share with them and bring them into the community with you. That's what we did. We created our own environment. I remember the day I looked up and was talking to God, and I was like, I ain't doing anything else that ain't fun. If I got to stay here, and my friend was just diagnosed with cancer and she was dying, and I was like, she gets to die, I have to stay. I'm done with this shit. If I got to stay, I ain't doing anything else that's not fun. You are going to send the resources if I'm doing your work. And I'm helping the people. Like, I expect to be compensated for this, right? I just went into this demand mode, which is kind of weird. People might send me to hell for it. And, I was like, and my final note, it was almost a PS, was, and I want a conscious community to do it with. I don't want to do this by myself. I don't want to be alone. And we've been through a lot of ups and downs in our group. People have come and gone, but it is the what helps us keep that binding, that you changing the culture for yourself is one thing, but changing the culture and creating a community, that's years in process, because it's the inability to communicate properly. We hurt each other, hurt people. And we come from the old defense. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, once you transition in yourself and you begin to speak differently, and there's things that you, like you said earlier, you don't have the tolerance for anymore. You don't have the capacity to do certain things anymore. So you don't want to be a part of certain situations anymore, and in that space, we get that. We talk very matter-of-factly. We talk very transparently. We go really deep with our conversations, and we can sit here and talk about the weather too, and have dinner and not be crazy, right? So it's very interesting to be able to have connection with people like that, and it be safe and fun and enjoyable. And so I found it was hard to go out and have connections with people once I've changed the way that I do things, and what I will or won't necessarily be a part of anymore, and it's finding that space for myself, and then having a community of other people that were welcoming to me and saying, hey, we get it, we want to do this kind of stuff too, and you do have a place here. It's kind of like the church that opens the doors and says, come as you are, like, come as you are, we'll take you in, we'll love you, so I was welcomed into a community where nobody cared about my past. They were super transparent and honest with me. We worked through what pain points I had personally in my life that I was struggling with. And the relationships evolved in a really deep, rich level. And so I didn't need thousands of people anymore to be in my pocket, because I got fed at this table with these handful of really deep conversations whenever I was able to connect with anybody. So we have a community that's just open to letting you evolve in your own way, and keeping it safe, and having the guides and the techniques and the tools there the whole time. We can be in a community where it's safe and do that. And so I appreciate that we have created this, and we have all of these like-minded people kind of in the same mission, the movements that we're talking about, the missions that we have. It's so fun to be there.
Yeah. So would you say that, as painful as it is for some of the loss,
Mm-hmm.
that you get something greater back?
Yes.
That's more rich. That loves and accepts you unconditionally without judgment, allows you to be yourself. So that's where the richness is. And I'm just going to mention this because it happened with both of us, is some of those friends, they're really, what's happening, guys, especially if you're a creator and you think big and dream big, they actually watch you do a bunch of things and then not finish a bunch of things. And so they're just watching from experience, knowing how long she's going to do this, how long is she going to stay there? We hear this a lot. And it's like, oh yeah, it's her next thing. It'll be over in a couple of years, that kind of stuff. And so I think it's that sustainability to truly change and stay with the change and actually embody it long enough that the people who love you come back around. You have friends from high school and childhood, and I do too, that came back around because they saw, whether it was inspiration or motivation or sustainability or a calmness, or they saw something. There was a change that was undeniable, and they got curious. And so for those of you who are changing and you're feeling alone and isolated, whether you're in our community or not, and really wondering if you did the right thing, if you become more of yourself, you did the right thing. Sometimes we're born. I think about the birds who drop seeds, and you got this oak tree in the middle of a pine valley. Like, sometimes we're born in places that actually don't align with us. I don't align with where I live. I'm here because I love my family and my family loves it here. But I don't love the culture. I am not satisfied. I want a freaking coffee shop. I want organic food and delis or restaurants that are farm to table. I want and I don't have that there. And it just so happens I need to eat several times a day. So it's important to me. There are some things, I don't love that we don't get new industry here, and that our schools suck, and no one's going to come here as long as the schools suck, because they're not going to want to build anything here, and our businesses don't survive. So there's so many reasons that I don't, right? But the richness that I have gotten from being myself, and that attracting people who can accept that aspect or that version of myself, stick it out, hold it out. Don't just I might as well just throw in the towel, or it's no use. Matter of fact, you can look at everything in your life and see if you've done it. And I guarantee you'll do it here too. So if you give up on the diet, if you give up on this was helping the pain, but then you quit, whatever it is, when it gets really tough, if you quit, you're going to want to quit here too. Yeah. But I promise you, there is nothing richer or grander than the individuality that is within yourself, and you taking personal responsibility for bringing that on board 100%. to stop hiding yourself. That's where the pain's coming from. That's where the separation's coming from, because you have judgment about yourself, and then you're reflecting that in your relationships.
Yeah. That personal responsibility, that was a game changer for me. And this is fairly new for me to really, really step into that and just own every part that I had in everything. And that was a beautiful awareness to have, to move through some of this hard stuff, this life stuff. Life can be hard some days, you know?
It's hard and liberating. So the hard part is what the mind's occupied with.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have the liberation, because when you take personal responsibility, it's not just about shit, I got to take it all on myself. It's about they have to take theirs on themselves. But you can't see it because you can't be a reflection of it. You're a hypocrite if you're saying and not doing it, right? And it's just out of habit. But you had this recently. It was not easy to be called out on it. And I know for me either. Like, what? I'm a what? Like, I even went look up the word enable, and it actually has a positive spin to it. So, yeah, I'm gonna pull this up and tell you guys, because I just did contemplation on it. So enabling is to give someone or something the authority or means to do something. Yeah, it's like empowerment. Like, what? I'm like, what's the problem with enabling? That's a good thing. Like, I sat here and dissected this, and I was like, what is the problem? Then I looked at the psychology word of it, right? But it's like, it's enable. To enable is to give someone or something the authority or means to do something. That is what we do.
Yeah. I want you to be enabled to take care of yourself, right?
Yes.
Like, I want to enable you to come on board.
Here's the but.
Yeah.
But are you doing it at the expense and cost of them not doing it themselves? That was the part where we kept slipping, that I was so married to the potential that I was seeing. And so it's like the kids who wants to play first base, and they're sitting on the sofa grumpy because the coach didn't let them play. And that's how they're trying to solve the problem, by eating Doritos on the sofa instead of getting out there and practicing and getting better at it. That's the enablement, is when you give them the authority and the means. The means is the key word. We give the means to personally develop, to self-heal. We give the means. You said there's a module, there's coaching there. I mean, we do healing sessions. We do so much that gives them the means. But then when they don't take the incentive to utilize those means, and we continue, that is the problem. And it's the same thing with when someone is personally changing or is claiming their health, and they have the means, but then the habit is the other person having the authority and the responsibility. That was my lesson of the week. I was going to do a podcast on, because I was like, I am confused.
Yeah.
What do you see? Because do you think it's a part of our Southern culture?
You know, I asked the other day about like people pleasing and overgiving and stuff, and people that were from the North were like, no, this is all over. This is everywhere. And I was like, thank y'all for letting me know.
Yeah.
I had some Midwesterners and other people. I asked that in my group the other day for the challenge, like, you know, are y'all people pleasers? Is that just a Southern thing? If it's other places, let me know, because I need to know. I need awareness, because I only grew up in the South. I don't know any different, you know? But no, it's a pretty common thing. And
there are humans.
Yes, we're conditioned. Humans are conditioned, and we
Arguments.
do what's been told to us. And
I believe it's us trying to compensate or overcompensate for what we didn't receive, that we felt we were worthy and deserving of and didn't get. And then we pass it over to there. So it is a human thing, but Southern hospitality does have a big impact.
yeah, I agree.
On how we're supposed. And then it's also the Christian perspective, which I'm not anti-Christian, guys. But the unhealthy Christian perspective of being the martyr to earn the grace and the
Yeah.
rights to the thing. Like you must suffer to get. That is bull.
Well, it's this obligation to everything, like I'm supposed to fill in the blank. Like I'm supposed to. That's what I was told to do. I should have known.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. We are heading to the top of the hour. And I think hopefully you got it, the takeaway from this, which is we understand the wanting to give up, the grief, the change, the discomfort, and it feels like you're in alone and you don't have support and that you've given up the support that you did have. So you've been negotiating in order not to be alone. And I hope we've inspired you through our years of endurance and sticking it out, that it's totally worth it. There were times we thought it was not going to be worth it for sure. But I would like to think that we are now sitting in a position where we can handle anything because we've handled a lot of stuff, using these tools. If you do feel alone and isolated, I would love to invite you to Self-Healing Masters. You can reach out to Monique or I. Either one of us can sign you up. Monique has a bonus going on right now. You definitely want to reach out to her.
Yeah.
But the challenge is going to end on Friday. And that is in the More Than Mindset Facebook group. So if you're catching this after, then you can go and catch the replays. They're all in there. Is there any final note of encouragement or inspiration that you would like to leave clients with who are self-healing, who are kind of winning, but are facing resistance in their household or in their relationships?
Yeah. I would say reach out to us, get some support, connect with us, ask questions, because we definitely understand what it's like to be there. We both experienced it, and there are tools available to put you personally into the position that you need to be so that you can personally handle and address whatever's going on in your environmental space, your situation personally. Everybody's going to have a different circumstance going on.
What's one thing they can tell themselves?
Yeah.
If when they're facing adversity,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to lose. They've been listening to the podcast. They've been getting coaching. And they don't want to lose what they've what is one thing they can think or tell them or ask themselves?
I always like to flip and play devil's advocate in my brain because, I'm a investigator in there. And I say, what if this doesn't have to be a problem?
Good.
That's one of the things that I've learned.
If this is not a problem that they think different from me? What if this is not a problem that they don't believe me? What if this is not?
What if this isn't a problem?
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure you'll be back. It's been a while though. I haven't done any interviews in quite a while. All right, my friends, have a beautiful week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of More Than Mindset.